Yo, today we are in Roblox Studio and I'm going to be introducing you guys to a concept called string formatting in Roblox Studio, and this is a complex higher level version of combining multiple different attributes to a text label. Like for example, if you wanted to put the value of a variable with a certain text, then you can use string formatting to do this. I'm going to be showing you guys how you can do this and what this would instead replace. So you guys may know that if we have string text here, like text like secondary gaming up here and a number like 10, then if you wanted to display it on the text label, knowing that I have a local script here, which the parent is the text label, I could do script.parent, the text equals string text, and string integer. Now, those are the variables. Now, you guys know that is possible. That's what you would originally have to do if you wanted to put a value in here. And then you could do that. So that would set something in. Then you could put in hello. And then you could do that. And then you could put in text, like custom text with the variable. That is what you originally had to do if you wanted to do something like that. So yeah, just showing you guys a bit better. Here we have hello, we have the variable that we put in here with the other variable. Now, how can you do this at a higher level without having to do all of this stuff, like combining different things together? Well, an alternative to this, as much as this does work, you can do string.format, and then this is where string formatting comes in. Now, string format is a function that returns a formatted version of its variable number of arguments following the description given its first argument, which must be a string. And that basically allows you to put multiple variables together and text together at the same time. So what we could do is do hello, and then you may wonder how you actually do this. Well, we have the format string, which is basically the actual text, and unknown is the variables which are substituting the actual string formats. And string formats use specific formatting codes, which I will go through in this video. So we have string.format, hello. And then what we want to do is we want to output hello, colon, and then secondary gaming, and then 10 with a gap in between. Now, how can we do that? Well, normally you would just put in, if you wanted a specific text, you would just put in the text without string.format. But if you have variables with it, this is a nice feature to use. So rather than just like you would need to put in the variables. So how would you do that? So let's go here, and the order that we want to put the variables in will be secondary gaming and then the 10. So we want string text and then string integer, like that. So that is going to tell the system that these are the variables that we want to use in the string formatting. But how do we actually tell the system to use them, and where in the text we want to do it? Well, that's where string formatting comes in. So we can do percentage. Now, percentage will tell the system that we want to string format if you're using string formatting. And string text is actually a string already, so you would do percentage %s. Now, percentage %s is the code you would use to string format a string. So basically, if you have text that isn't a number or a float or anything else, and it's literally just text, then you would use percentage %s to tell the system that it is a string value. Then, if you want a gap in between, you would do a gap and then percentage %i. Now, I means integer. As long as your number is a whole number, that will work. So now you can see that originally we had the underline because it wasn't working. Now, the second we put in I with the percentage, it is no longer with the underline, and it is actually working. So if we test this out, it says what we said here before. Now, there's a gap in between secondary game and 10. Now, if you wanted to remove that gap, you would just remove the gap from here, being percentage %s, percentage %i. Now, to a new player, or new developer, that may look confusing, but that is exactly what it does. It literally allows you to format text which has strings, numbers, variables, and a bunch of different things without having to do the dot dot between each piece of info. You would just do string format with all of the variables after the text, having all of this. Now, you may probably wonder, how can you do floats? And for those who are confused about what floats are numbers that aren't whole numbers, basically meaning it has a decimal point inside of the number. So how would you do that? Well, you would instead use the f, which means float. So replace I with f, and then you can put this to 3 point. So 3.1415. That should be pi. Those are the few digits of pi. I don't know them. I only know up to 3.1415. And that allows you, with the I, let's just show you. With I, this won't work because it is not actually that. So yeah, it shows 3. If you use I, it will only show everything up to the decimal point. Like for example, if I put in a bunch of numbers in front of it, with I, it will show 11113 with nothing else because you put in I. Whereas if you do F for float, and that is much, much nicer, and then you can have all the ones removed, and then it's just simply pi. So I've got pi in my name, here we go. So that is exactly how you would do string formatting with a float as well. But you may want to know what other codes there are. Well, let's go through some of them. So over here on the Roblox Create page, we actually have the Learn feature here. In Engine API, we have string. Now, it has specifiers. They are called specifiers. So, like, C can be an integer. Like, there are things that, like, multiple specifiers for each item. C also means integer, but I recommend you guys use I because that is easier to remember than C. So, C is integer, and D or I are also integer as decimal representations. Basically go up to the decimal representation. So as I showed you here, with 3.14, it only showed 3. What happens if we do C, however? Well, over here, if we change it to C, which also is an integer, then 3.14 doesn't show at all. It has to be an integer to show that. And C is a nice thing to use if you want to ensure that it only shows it if it's an integer. It is nice, and it will basically show something as long as it's an integer. Where D will only work up to the decimal point, or I think it was D. Well, I recommend you guys use I because that is easier to remember. And then for floats, you would do lowercase e or uppercase e for a float, and then that's only for scientific notation using E or E, and that's this. So if you use a uppercase E, it will show it as that. Now, you guys may be confused what E floats, what scientific notation using E actually is. Well, it's basically a standard form when the times 10 is replaced with an E. So basically, in this situation, E is replacing times 10, and then the number after it is the power. So like 3.296 times 10 to the power of 2 is replaced with 3.296e2, and that is the same thing. It's just replacing the times 10, and the number after the E is what it's to the power of. And then, of course, F for standard floats being 3.3231.1231, and that is literally just standard floats. Each specifier does slightly different things, even though the acceptors are the same, but they do slightly different things. It depends. Some of these are like D or I, they're both the same, but E or E, that mainly just depends. Do you want the E to be lowercase or uppercase? That's the only difference. So then float is float, F for float, G or G for float, and 3E14, the shorter of E/E and F. So that basically is just integer ones. So doing what you would do up here with scientific notation. From this, I'm assuming G or G basically just does the same thing as that, except without any decimal places. O is also integer, but that's octal representation. Now, I don't think you guys need to worry about that too much. The 610, I'm assuming, is literally just normal number. So guys, I've got 3 here, whereas if I put O for octal representation, I think it just says 3. Yeah, it just says 3. It's the same thing. You guys don't need to worry about octal representation. I'll look into that, and I'll put something in the comment section if I find out exactly what that is used for, and then I'll update you guys when and on that, and whether you guys should actually worry about octal representation. I don't think you need to worry about it. It mainly just uses float, string, and integer. And then down here we've got Q for string, which is string in a form suitable to be safely read back to the lower interpreter. And that is basically like this, but like why would you use Q? Just use S if you're doing standard strings. So S string is for that. U is for integers and decimal representation. X or X is for hexadecimal representation. So that's interesting. So a number, if you wanted to represent it as hex, then you could do that. And I think 15 is F, if I remember correctly. Yeah, up here. So we have F here because we're using hexadecimal representation for 15. And if I change this one X to X, basically just making it uppercase, then we can see that the F is then going to be capital. And that's actually quite nice. I didn't even know that was a feature. You learn something new every day. And then we've got star, which is anything equivalent to string, but it sets any variable by converting it to a string using toString. So if you don't know what to use, just use star. Yes. And then percentage is percentage followed by another percentage will return the percentage sign itself. And fair enough. So what that seems to be is, like, if you just put in a percentage, yeah, that won't work. That will bug it out. Meaning, if you do percentage again, you would have to do a double percentage if you actually want the percentage in there. And then that's nice because once you put a percentage in, it bugs the script out, breaks it. The system will think you're actually trying to put in the code, which is invalid because you can't have a blank percentage code. Which is nice. If you want a percentage symbol on purpose in there, then use double percentage. That works quite well. And that is everything for this video. This is a beginner tutorial, so I'm not going to go into too much detail. If you have any other questions about string formatting or anything else to do with Roblox Studio or previous videos that I've made, let me know in the comment section. I'll try reach out to you and respond if I can. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. I've got a full course for beginner, intermediate, and advanced if you want to check them out on the channel, and I'll put a link at the end of this video in the end card if you want to go straight to the beginner playlist course if you want to check out some other videos. I've also got intermediate and advanced, like I just mentioned. Got a link to my Discord server in the description if you want to join that. And otherwise, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Have a good rest of your day.